very pleasant evening to you out there. Thank you for joining us on another edition of the program National Talk on Equa Television International. My name is Joyce Jakada. Tonight on the program, we continue the conversation on the appeal court's judgment sacking Governor Caleb Mutfwang of the People's Democratic Party here on the Plateau. You will recall that yesterday we started the discussion and we looked at the legal as well as the political implication, as well as the implication on all the parties involved. And we promised to bring you legal practitioners from both PDP as well as the APC. And tonight we're going to be having the legal advisor of the People's Democratic Party here on the Plateau to join us and discuss this particular issue. In the meantime, reactions continue to trail the appeal court judgment sacking the Plateau State Governor Barrister Caleb Mutfwang of the People's Democratic Party PDP. The President's Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, said the People's Democratic Party PDP should be blamed for the sack of its governor and not the presidency or the judiciary. And tonight we dissect this issue, and I'm now joined by Barrister Panshak Dakyen, the advisor of the People's Democratic Party here on the Plateau. Good evening and welcome to National Talk.
Good evening, Joyce. Good evening, viewers.
It feels good to have you. I recall that the last time you were here with your colleague from the APC, and it was indeed a tussle here. But tonight, though I know a lot of public opinion have been thrown out there, there has also been sentiments and all of that. And why I sympathize with the appeal court's judgments coming to your party, because of course this is not something that the party expected, probably, because I've heard PDP talking about the fact that yes, we were actually, the people voted for the governor, and I listened to the governor promising the people that they should remain calm, they should be law-abiding. This is just a temporary setback. They will sure recall regain their mandates at the Supreme Court, which is the fundamental rights of the governor to actually do that. But you know, the case on the Plateau has continued to generate a lot of reactions, and I think it's also because about 7 members of the PDP at the National Assembly were also affected by the same issue. You recall that on Sunday, while the 3-member panel passed the judgment on the issue, said that the party that sponsored Governor Caleb Mutfwang lack structure, and that was the same case with Barr, the same case with Benny Lar, and even Simon Matcon, and amongst other members that were actually affected at the National Assembly. But let's look at the case of the governor. Like I said, it has generated a lot of reactions. We saw protests even on the streets here on the Plateau. Yesterday there were interviews on the street, and some members of the public said that they don't agree with the judgment. They actually went out there, they voted, and they don't think that the appeal court should actually upturn the victory. But of course, we operate in a democratic system, and you know that the judiciary is also part of the system. And so a lot of reactions. But how did this judgment come to you? I remember how that you were actually saying the last time we had conversation about the ruling, the tribunal, of course, favors the PDP, and there were a lot of celebrations on the street, even though your colleague from the APC was pointing to the same issues that you liken to pre-election matters. But how did this judgment come to you as the legal advisor of the PDP on the Plateau?
Well, you know, before the last time we were here, we were I was quite optimistic, because the Court of Appeal is a court of policy, and they've already rendered decisions in that light. I could remember when I was making reference to the Borno case, that's whereby they said even orders of the court, even if Supreme Court, you don't come to the tribunal. Because we also made reference to other cases that came up. We have Mbina versus INEC. Little do we know, because frankly speaking, you won't know who will be the panelists until you come for your hearing. When I came and I saw it was the same panel who sacked their Matcon, I just knew we were screwed. I just knew that things were not going to go smooth. Pardon me for using that word, screwed. Because although as a lawyer you have to have a nerve of steel, and that was what I was ready, because I knew it was not going to go otherwise. Even if you come. Look, if you hear the arguments we proffered is enough for a judge to change his mind. But instead, what we are seeing, you see, there's a difference when you lose a case based on law. There's a difference when you lose a case based on facts. In this instance, some of us are dumbfounded. Once the judgment is being passed, whether we interpret it or not, it's left for us. But there's one thing that is going on. There's a there's a high level of misrepresentation of facts that is before the courts.
What exactly do you mean by misrepresentation?
Misrepresentation of facts is that our colleagues who handled some of the matters were consistently in some matters, and you could hear them giving a different impression to the court. This happened, that happened. And, you know, they say there's no good case, there's no bad case except you have a bad lawyer. There's no bad case except you have a bad lawyer. Now, in a society where we are craving for a common man to get justice, sometimes you should be able to look at your client and say, no, this is wrong, this is right. Our case was a clear-cut case. But what I have noticed is a shift of the goalposts. Mind you, they are shouting up and down that there's a court order that invalidated that nullified our Congress. Up to now, you won't see a court saying that Bitrus Kaze's case, we have nullified that Congress that was held. All the courts will tell you that you have not complied, but they've not told us this Congress has been nullified. The one that was conducted on the 25th of September 2021.
I'm really happy that you brought about the issue of the Congress, because the three-member panel headed by Justice Alfreda pointed to the fact that the PDP disobeyed the Plateau High Court order that says go back and conduct Congress in the 17 local government, citing the disobedience to that. And also, they said you can't keep something on top of nothing. And going by the constitution also, the Nigerian 1999 constitution, the provision says it doesn't provide for single candidacy, but rather a political party should sponsor a candidate. But on the grounds that the party, they continue to uphold the fact that on the ground that the party that sponsored Governor Caleb Mutfwang had no structure. And the reason is that the High Court had already dissolved the leadership and asked the party to go and conduct Congress. And you are talking about the fact that there is nothing on record that says that the Congress that you held was actually nullified. Did you actually hold Congress in the 17 local governments?
Now, let me explain this. Before that state Congress, there's what we call the three ad hoc Congress. The three, in anything you are doing as a political party that has to do with Congress, these three ad hoc Congress are just common people. You go and bring three from each ward. Now, after those three ad hoc, the next set of people who get elected or who form part of the delegates are the ward chairman, state ward chairman, or the federal ward chairman. Now, when you now come, after they've done the election of the ward chairman, the federal ward chairman and the state ward chairman, the next cadre is the local government cadre. Now, we started the congresses in March. We started around January, February. And you remember when we were getting close to March, it was in March that we were supposed to hold it. We were supposed to hold it at a very short period of time. I think a span of just one week or 2 weeks then. The COVID now came that they now imposed the lockdown, and we were unable to continue.
So how many local governments
now,
were you able to hold?
As at that time, 12 local governments conducted their Congress. There was problem in 5. Just North, Just East, Kanam, Shandam, and Just South. In Just South, it was a little bit dicey, but it was part of it. So those were the 5 local governments that did not conduct because they had issues that were pending. But in the 12 local governments, they had concluded their congresses. Now, a certain fellow went to... Now, you see, in politics, that's why they will tell courts not to interfere in political matters because they are internal affairs of a political party. After these congresses were done and there was the internal tussle, which was because they went to court, obtained judgment. I was explaining earlier, I said, there was even part of the negotiation that was done. Because some people are blaming Baba Jang, that's the former governor, Jonah David Jang, an erudite elder, statesman, and a very passionate Plateau man. And they were blaming Jeremiah Husseini faction there, saying these old people are the ones that are causing the issue. I said, no. I know how these men, at a point, I remember there were some of the meetings that Baba would say, at this time I shouldn't be coming. I have groomed you people enough. People should go and do. It is when the thing becomes tough that you see him have to come and take the center stage. There was a negotiation. Look, with respect to late Nasiru Monchu, there's one thing I like. He will tell you the truth, and later I say, oh yeah, Tokuzomu, come, let's see how we're going to fix it. This. He said, the time we're in one of the meetings, negotiation meetings, they said, you, the Husseini faction, what percentage do you control? They said, Baba told them, for Baba's side, we control, Baba said we control 80%. They were shouting, ah! Then they said, you, what do you control? He said, they control 40%. Montu said, Mufadagas, he said, no, let's say the truth. They control more than 30. That their own faction don't control more than 25%. The 20 that we said was correct. Now we were told, part of why we agreed for that first Congress to be nullified, after giving proper legal advice, looking at the Bitrus Kaze's case, and we said, let's come back and work together. But personal interest was what brought down that negotiation that we had. Some that were contesting said they know that if they say pick, because the last notion was like, okay, we are going to split the ESCO. You, this faction, bring this percentage. You, this faction, bring this percentage. Before we tell them, we are bringing only 20%. But because we are supposed to take ourselves along, it was agreed that they should bring up to 35%.
So do you agree with the people that are saying that the PDP should be blamed for what they are actually facing right now? Because, you just mentioned the issue of personal interest. Yes. And the presidency, talking about the special advisor of the president on information and strategy, Bayo Onanuga, said that the People's Democratic Party should be blamed for what they are actually facing, not the judiciary, not even the president, because you just pointed out to internal affairs right now.
Internal affairs of a political party. It is only...
So should we allow that to linger?
Now,
to even get to
understand something. There's a reason why courts will tell you that courts don't interfere in internal crisis of a party, because once we bring out some of the beans, you will not be able to swallow it. And that's why they say interest. They will just say at a party. The only time you can go to court and complain is when you have been wronged by a political party, like your name has been substituted, or you were not granted, like you contested for an election and they decided to rule you out. You can go and say, look, I did not get what I had. This is what happened. This is what happened. This is the injustice I suffered. And by the way, have it in mind that if you willingly join an association, you are bound by the rules of that association. That is the rationale why when you go to court to say, I suffered injustice in PDP, you say, no, you willingly joined as a member. So you should be bound by what is happening, even if there's injustice.
And that is what people are saying. The policy or the laws of the PDP were made by members of the PDP. And then why are you disregarding this same issue? I'm telling you now that people are blamed. Some people have the opinion that PDP caused its problem.
Let me put it pop and clear for you. The internal issues of PDP were resolved entirely before we went for election. When people are blaming, it's because some of them are not privy to some of this privileged information.
But it was some members of the PDP that went to the Plateau State High Court.
Now here, I'm talking of interest. Bitrus Kaze went because he felt that he was not given fair grounds to contest. The allegation which they even claimed that we were screening them, which was a blatant lie. The only thing was that we were constituted as a caretaker committee so that the party will run So it was done all over the states, all over the country. But they got up and said, no. They even accused us that we use program delegates. That if they put us fair and square, we will read the thing. So he went, and in all honesty, with due respect to the judge, he was not by law supposed to go into that affair. He will say it's PDP and it's your problem. He had no jurisdiction. Now, when they say it is our people, the current Electoral Act has did away with a lot of things. Before you can wake up and say, I have a problem, you go and challenge. Now, let's look at the live issues that are here. We are talking about Bitrus Kaze's judgment. The problem is that did Bitrus Kaze approach any agency or court of law to say, I suffered injustice? The question I ask is that, so if Bitrus Kaze had won this election, will the APC still go and say we had no structure? These are the questions people don't ask themselves to puzzle. We don't sit down and say because somebody is a leader, is credible. There are certain, we have lapses, we are human beings.
You're a legal practitioner.
Yes.
And then I listened to your legal team after the judgment was passed,
yes,
talking about the fact that the courts of appeal shouldn't meddle into this case, like on the grounds of some of the issues that they term pre-election, even though the court is saying, yes, there are also grounds of post-election matters. I would like you to really clarify that.
I was in court when that judgment was read. Some of us just smiled. What is the case that the APC presented before the court? Their ground one is saying that we were not qualified as at the time of that election. We were not qualified though. Then, under the particulars, they now brought the issue of nomination and sponsorship. The particulars for qualification are different from nomination and they are different from sponsorship. The law is clear.
They said they were particular about the sponsorship.
That's what I'm getting there. The law is clear. Nomination pre-election, qualification post-election, sponsorship. Now, just know that if you go and look at their petition, you will not see that there's disqualified. There's that he was not sponsored as a candidate. You will not see that. You only see that we were not qualified. So because we were not qualified, we should be disqualified. The Court of Appeal, that is where sometimes someone was saying something, some people think, the Court of Appeal on its own, knowing fully well that if they go for nomination is pre-election, if they go for qualification is pre-election, they decided to hold on to sponsorship to say it's a pre- and post-election.
But it is clear that the PDP disobeyed a court order.
We did not disobey any court order
I'm
anywhere.
citing what the Justice Alfreda said pertaining the Plateau State High Court not holding
I'm taking
Congress.
you there. They said that now, you see this issue of independent candidates. After the tribunal judgment, did you hear anything about independent candidates? Independent candidacy came as an import in the Court of Appeal. Election matters are sui generis. You sink and swim with what you came with.
Because you are a legal practitioner, I was going to ask you, should the courts allow disobedience? Like, because
the courts, you see, I am not an advocate of disobedience of court. But I cannot sit down. That's why I said there's a lot of misrepresentation of facts. I cannot sit down here and support that the order of court should not be complied. I was part of the team. There's a legal team that we set up to recommend on what to do. Some of us had to sacrifice. We know how much we spent to do the first Congress. We had to sacrifice and say, okay, we agree for PDP to win this election. Let's go back and conduct this Congress in compliance with. INEC has a report. Now, let me take you. This one, they hear that they are talking about some local governments not participating. PDP's report is behind INEC's report. If you go to paragraph 4, that you see accreditation. Paragraph 4, you see the number. That's when they started outlining. These people came and they said they have an order of injunction. But when we now check, it is a motion or notice they brought. They didn't bring order. Oh. You now go down and see the accreditation. The 12 local governments were excluded based on legal advice. Remember they said 12, I told you that 12 conducted. So Justice went to court and it was a mischief on the part of the lawyers who added a particular clause, paragraph F, relief F, to say that all the local governments on the plateau, their elections should be brought down. I left the copies of the judgment in my car. The judge said in his finding in page 19 of his judgment, Justice Ajohn's judgment, he said that from the look of everything, we're all talking about Just East. It is not the whole of Plateau. But you see, they took this narrative on their head to say, oh, it is whole of 12 local government. If you read the PDP report, it is 216 ESCOs that were excluded based on legal advice. And you could see that the recommendation of the committee that we should try and see how we are going to carry these people along so that they won't feel left out. The people who were accredited to vote was 1,819. The PDP constitution said for you to do a congress, you must have 2/3. Bitrus Kaze won those. I think I'll provide some of these pictures and the videos. When the results were declared, he said, he congratulated and said he will be speaking his mind, but he's not going to court to challenge. We were actually to be sworn in on a Sunday because we didn't want to enter Monday so that tomorrow somebody will come with an injunction. But Bitrus Kaze gave assurances that he was not going to court. That was why our swearing in was postponed to the next day. I think 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We took time to rest and marry and come back.
You know why?
He didn't go to. Now, the law is clear. If you want to challenge that Congress, thank God with this current 20, even with the old act, even if you want to challenge, you must go to court. Has anybody gone to court to say that we're in disobedience of? Yes, somebody went to court. His name is Augustine Tim Cook. If you look at the reliefs, his relief was that this Congress that we did, he contested for Langtang North House of Assembly and lost. He took Joseph Nanim to court and said that and all the members that were there with PDP, he said he wants the court to say that we were in disobedience of Bitrus Kaze's judgment, this judgment that brought out these 12 local governments that we're talking about. That's the Marcus Ishaya's case for Just East. Then the ruling of the judge that said, no, I did clarification that this is this. They brought another judgment to say that, that's the PDP Plasek, to say that we were in disobedience of these things. Do you know what happened? The court disagreed with him. Now, when the court disagreed with him, the court struck out the case based on a preliminary objection. But the court went on his merit because courts are normally required in election matters like that. If you do that, you go to the merit so that when they go up, the person will be able, the court will be able to look at the matter instead of sending it back because election matters are time bound.
You know, most of the reactions.
I'm coming. Let me come. We went to the court of yes, we came to the court of appeal. Why I'm giving you this instance because I will go back to the judgment of the court of appeal because they centered it on this thing. The court of appeal said that yes, you have an incomplete or invalid record and struck out the case. However, in page 22 to 23, the judge said, I'll be going into the merit of this matter because I'm an intermediate court in case they want to go. Now, in relief 4 of their notice of appeal, they told the court that exercise your powers. They said in this lower court, this judge did not hear us on our merit. We suffered fair hearing. We're not heard. We didn't get fair hearing before this judge. Please use section 15 of your act and give us fair hearing. That section 15 that we're talking about, that particular prayer that is there, is in their notice of appeal. Do you know what the court said? Page 44 to 45. The court said for the avoidance of doubt, he cannot go into that section 15 because already the court below had given you fair hearing. I cannot do that.
Okay, let me just bring your attention
now,
to
let me come back to that court of appeal.
reactions.
Now, the court of appeal now decided to sit down and say, okay, I was in court when they were reading the judgment. Said, the Federal High Court judge, after you have determined this case on preliminary objection, you shouldn't have gone into the merit. That going into the merit, she went on a business of her own, and they called her all sorts of names and said all sorts of things with due respect to them, but she didn't deserve it because she did what the law entitled her to do. Now, they now came to the Court of Appeal and they started interpreting their own brother that even the Augustine Tim Cook said they couldn't find anything that had to talk about compliance. Mind you, in that Tim Cook's case at the Federal High Court, at page 45 and page 44, the judge said PDP has complied. Looking at that INEC report that they are saying that PDP did not comply. The INEC report and the PDP report that were attached, certified by INEC. The court said we are not in disobedience, that we have conducted Congress. They held, though. Then the court also said that we were not in disobedience of those 3 judgments. Now, the Court of Appeal said they affirm the judgment of the Federal High Court and dismissed the case. The Court of Appeal now went and started saying that that judge had no business, that their brother, that was not what his intent and purpose, and he did not say this and that. Do you know, literally, we're looking at him in shock. Now, this is the contradiction. You cannot open your mouth and tell me that if I dismiss your case on a PO, don't go into the merit. In PDP's cross appeal that was filed by Emeka Atiaba-San, they dismissed, the APC raised an objection that the cross appeal is incompetent because there's what we call that there was no record transmitted with it. There is no prayer for leave to use another record, that's the record of the main appeal, and there was nothing before the court to persuade the court that because your record of appeal is what ignites the jurisdiction of the Court of Appeal. Do you know what they did? The Honorable Justice Elfreda herself, she dismissed the preliminary objection. After she finished dismissing it, if we are going to apply that same thing, they've been saying that Justice Agashi is not supposed to go into the merit. Their brother was not supposed to go into the merit. They now went into the merit and said, on the merit itself, your appeal is not this thing. So, in that instance,
you will continue,
double standard.
From your point. Yeah, I know that one of the counter reactions to it is the issue that, same issues but different strokes. Because people have pointed out to same issues in other states, but when the variation in the ruling, even on the Plateau.
You see that of Benue that was decided just by the Court of Appeal, a different panel. What did they say? They said issue of qualification is pre-election. You see, it's like they are making, it's like the courts are making.
All of these cases have its peculiarity.
Now, when people start calling Zamfara is APC. But in this instance, the law has said that nobody can come and question even the nomination and sponsorship. You see, they made a pronouncement to say that PDP had an independent candidate. Let me tell you what happened in Anambra. In Anambra, there was a problem because the National Working Committee dissolved the whole state ESCO because of the serious issues they were having, which was more than ours. Do you know what they did? They brought what we call special delegates. They set up a caretaker committee, brought delegates. Mind you, they had no so-called structure. That structure that they are saying Plateau State chapter has no structure. PDP does not have structure. That's what the Court of Appeal, that was what happened in Anambra. They went into their Congress with special delegates and they finished the Congress. Did you hear that they went to court to go? The court said because there was no state ESCO as at that time, the party has no structure. The political parties are like corporate organizations. They have one, it is only one. PDP, no matter what PDP Plateau State chapter does, it is what the national body does. Because even in the judgment, they kept saying that PDP Plateau State had no structure. PDP Plateau State had no structure. If PDP Plateau State had no structure, it's never PDP at the national.
Talking about Plateau State PDP, let's watch some reactions from the streets as regards the appeal court judgment sacking Governor Caleb Mutfwang of the PDP.
My point here is that the judgment of the tribunal of Plateau is okay, but the judgment of court appeal, I disagree with it, because Caleb Mutfwang has won election by the mandate of people. People give him his own all mandate, and they have declared him as a governor of this state. They have declared him as a governor of this thing. But I disagree with the Court of Appeal to affirm a Natawe. Natawe did not win election, so we go for that now. We will go to Supreme Court. That is the last court. We are waiting now. When we go to the Supreme Court, we are waiting. After the judgment of the Supreme Court, then we will.
I'm quite sure they said it's a party affair, but I actually don't know whether it is a party affair or not. But actually, I am not very happy with what is happening in Plateau State. The situation, we need peace in Plateau State, but this thing is turning into a different thing altogether. Well, we still wait for the judgment of the Supreme Court, if it will go the way of the ruling government now. But if we cannot go their way, we'll still accept it in good faith and advise that we live in peace with one another.
Actually, I felt very disappointed in the in the judgment that was passed, because all this while the APC have done so much harm and good to the masses, and people have been complaining. The means of survival is very difficult for people, and then all of a sudden they want to still collect the leadership and give it back to the APC, thinking, when people have been thinking that the PDP regime have come to their rescue, and then all of a sudden they want to collect the leadership and take it back to PDP, in which the people are already disappointed in the PDP, in the APC regime.
The current problem in the Electoral Act, or this present judgment, will affect future election. The reason why it will affect future election is that the judgment is not favorable. The people have voted their mandate. They have voted the person they wanted in the election, but there is a broad-day robbery in the election, and that is the reason why you will experience voter appetite in the next election, because people will not come out to vote. If they come out to vote, the person they voted for, they will not give him the election, and it will affect us in the future election. What is the reason why you will go out and vote, and the person you voted for has not been given the mandate? And that alone will make us to withdraw our vote and allow the people to select, because it is now selection, no longer election.
Well, these are some voices on the street, but of course the court will not judge based on emotions, based on public opinion, but really on fact that is before it. And I quickly want to just bring to your attention, I've listened to even a member representing Pangshin, Kanki and Kanam talking about Gagdi, talking about the fact that, the Constitution. No, before that statement, he in defense, he said the PDP went against Section 177 of the Nigerian 1999 Constitution that says the person that shall be qualified for an election to the office of the governor of a state should be a member of a party and should be sponsored by the party, and that's just what they are anchoring
even
on.
The
sponsorship, not that.
I'm not sure
he was also accused of making that statement. We know who they know, but they do
not that he was accused. The video is there now.
He came out to clarify that point.
You can't clarify what about
a lot of people have pointed to statements like that. But I want to bring your attention to
that
law.
If he wants to correct that statement, he should go and call back that what they call it. That he should go and organize another Pusdum and repeat and said, no, this is not what I said. We don't give good radiance to rubbish.
So no, I know that emotions are actually high, but these are some of the statements out there. Why PDP is anchoring on the fact that these issues are pre-election. They are saying that the issue that they are even pointing out to is issue of sponsorship. Our phone lines, by the way, are open for our callers to call and add
let
their
me just
voice.
say this before we go.
Should the law ignore issue of clarification, verification of a candidate?
Now let me just say this. It's painful for me to watch this video because some of us had to go down and beg these people for votes, give them hope. What is happening now? These common people, do you think tomorrow they want to go to the court where black is supposed to be black, but you have been told that it's white? It is painful when people look at you and say, Oga, you are a barrister. But it is painful that people are the one now telling us that, why are you people doing like this? The so-called learned that we call ourselves learned, people are now, common men on the street are looking at us that, if this is what you people call learned, it will not happen. I can tell you that a high-profile politician withdrew his child from reading law, put him to read management, because they said, if this law is like this now, by the time their children graduate, there will be nothing left. See, the profession, you see, the ridicule that is happening, you see, when people are celebrating injustice, they do not know that it's going to come back and bite them. Why I'm saying so is because they keep making noise that the case of Plateau is not different. But we are being victim, as far as I'm concerned, what is happening to us is not supposed to happen. The Section 117 that Gagdi is talking about, I'm not sure he has even read it. I'm not sure he has read what the court has said in respect of that. The Supreme Court has held that provision is to stop somebody from being an independent candidate. Let me give you an example. Peter Obi is very popular. Do you know that if Peter Obi ran and said, I am coming out as Peter Obi, I am not going to follow any political party, he could have amassed more votes than what he got. It is just the blank truth. But the constitution does not, because you must come under an umbrella. They did it so that in case you are too popular, that provision was brought in so that popular people cannot run out and stand independently. Now, that provision that he's talking about, that's I say, is a misapplied provision. The Supreme Court is clear on that. So anybody that is saying that PDP has an independent candidate did not read those authority.
I'm so
now
happy
the thing
that
is that
the governor has exercised his right of heading the Supreme Court.
No, we are heading to even if the governor will not exercise, we will push him to exercise. Because the common man, see, in South Korea, during one of the IBA conference, the chief judge of South Korea said something. He said, until the judiciary gets it right, democracy is still threatened. Democracy will not thrive. Why is it that have you noticed that if anything is happening in this country, where do they go to? Court. Remember the issue of the currency. Share people ran to court to go and stop the Emefiele from doing it. We are now politicians, we are all running to court. A common man that his land is stolen will run to court. Now the common people, their hopes are being dashed. And in all honesty, if we don't get this thing right, I told some people, I said the revolution of Nigeria is not going to come by on the street, it will come from the decision of the court. Look at what has happened in Kano. If you saw that decision in Kano, in one breath, the court is saying, I gave it to Abba. In the other breath, the court is saying, no, I'm giving it to the NNPP guy.
And that means it's so obvious that the votes of the masses are on the side and then the judiciary are on the other side making decisions.
Some people were saying that the judiciary is another polling unit. I will put Honorable Justice Bukachua, who is the husband to the immediate past PCA of the Court of Appeal. He said it with pride in the Senate that he had to encroach into his wife's privacy. If some of us start disclosing some of these things here, because for me, I told you that when I saw it was the same panel, I wasn't expecting anything different.
But with the governor have headed to the Supreme Court. What are your expectations?
My expectation, you see, some courts are not just courts; they are policy courts. That PDP Plateau case we were talking about, when the case was adjourned to 11th of September 2023, from nowhere we were sitting down, we found out that the motion which we adjourned for was brought back to the 26th of May to be heard. And when we went to the court, for those who were there in the court, the current Attorney General of the Federation was there in that matter because he was representing Plasek there. What did the Supreme Court say? They lambasted, they said, this is even a local government matter. What is it doing here in the Supreme Court? You are supposed to finish it at the DC. Have you people seen our decisions in Nasarawa and other states in respect of this? So if that is the case, that's why we withdrew the motion and said, okay, let's go back. And it was something else, because how can you adjourn a case to September, then you wake up and hear that it was brought for the Supreme Court is not where you can go and get dates tomorrow. As of now, their diary is already reading already 2025 because of cases. So there are certain things that happen if we don't get it right. Honorable Justice Chukwudifo Oputa of blessed memory, JCA, and one of the he said when he went to court, you see, when you are being, you see, the process of even selecting some of the judges is what some of us are crying about. Because if the common man says, I have this, I have that problem, everybody knows that even one of the judges of the panel is a controversial judge. Almost all his judgments were overturned on appeal. But he's still sitting there. If you heard the judgment, he went and dived, he literally was sitting on the Federal High Court case of Tinkuk on appeal. Is that right? Issue of independent candidacy was never raised. You see why, when we are talking about, it was never raised at the tribunal. There is consistency.
Okay, let me bring your attention to a statement by one of the senior advocates here, in Nigeria, talking about the fact that most of this appeal, the appeal judgments that was ruled, about 3 governors of the opposition parties were affected, that he even called for the review of the judgments that was passed. Do you agree with what the senior advocate is saying?
You know, they say when you become a victim of circumstance, you know the pain. I will not want the Court of Appeal to be the final court in respect of houses of assemblies and national, because those ones are supposed to go, because the people who voted those ones are people that you know one-on-one. When they are calling for that review, I will support it 100%, because the case of Plateau also needs review. How bad is it? Now, I was in court when they were reading the judgment for the governorship. After knowing fully well, just as I said, they cannot run to nomination, they cannot run to qualification. They now anchored it on sponsorship to say he was an independent candidate. Once you bring him like that as an independent candidate, there are consequential orders. I can challenge you. Look at the notice of appeal. The notice of appeal does not have specific, it just like allow this appeal, overturn the judgment of the petty and grant it. Now, there's one thing, you head to the tribunal for post-election. Now, if you are telling me that, okay, this person is not qualified, the person with the next lawful vote will be the person. When you go to the tribunal and you come and say there is non-compliance, there is malpractice, because you only go for non-compliance, malpractice of electoral malpractice. Now, when you go for those ones and to say that you had lawful vote, you cannot come and say that I scored lawful votes, but that election was marred with electoral malpractice. It is approbating and reprobating at the same time. And also, there's what we call admission against interest. You see, in Kano, you notice there was a deduction of a particular vote. In Plateau, did you hear that? Fine. Because at the tribunal, they could not prove that they had this. At the end of the day, we only called the total of how many witnesses? Just 4.
In all of these, I'm really particular and concerned about the masses, because it's like their votes are being put in the line, while the masses are on this side and their votes, the judiciary are on the other side making decisions as regard who wins. You listen to some of the voices on the street, and one of the person is saying, so there's actually no need for election. Let the people just go ahead with election. Even though I know that as a democratic nation, the judiciary is part and parcel of the system. And that is why when some people, especially members of your party, continue to talk about some of these issues being internal. You mentioned the issue of personal interest and all of that. And shouldn't the courts come in terms of redressing all of these issues?
Let me tell you one. When I started mainstream politics in 2016, when I came in as the assistant legal advisor, I was unopposed. We had some small issues, and I came and I brought my law. I was just discussing my law. So at the end of the day, the solutions they were bringing had no basis. I was insisting and I refused. I went and consulted 1, 2, 3. Then I consulted a very senior lawyer. He just laughed. I said, legal. You want to show you're working? He said, let me give you the first cue to the work in your office. He said, you're a politician now. He said, you will learn the hard way. He said, political solutions. Okay, he said, political solutions have no basis in law.
Sorry, let's speak with the caller. Good evening. Please, what's the name and where are you calling from?
I'm Emeka calling from the Republic.
Okay, Emeka, please go ahead with your contribution.
I want to ask some questions. We are Nigerians living in the Republic. I want to know whether the electoral law of Nigeria, there is for state and there are for national. Because in the case of this our vice president, double nomination, they say that the cases are internal. They are for the parties. I listened to that direct that they say that, but in case of this, because before a candidate come out, the party must know about the candidate. They must do the primary election before they select a candidate. They register it. And how can after the INEC have everything, register the candidate? If the candidate is not qualified, the INEC will not submit the name of the candidate. How can they come now and say that person is not qualified? In that of this is internal. This is internal. This is what we call this case is now for the party. For the party, it's not for the judiciary to decide. If a member of the party can come say challenging the man, that is the problem. But if no member of the party comes to challenge the man, I don't see the reason why the INEC will cancel that election. Thank you very much. We are praying for Nigeria because our law.
Thank you so much.
Have never seen the kind of law. We change everything.
Thank you, Emeka. Thank you for calling all the way from the Republic. We appreciate you.
You change another one. Next tomorrow you change another one. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Emeka. Still talking about the internal affairs, snowballing into a national issue.
You see what I'm talking about? That if common people understand this thing blue and black, is there a use for me as a lawyer? This is a call that we should save ourselves as the judiciary. Because there were rooms. You see, Chris Giwa's petition is fundamentally defective. You must state the cause of the party One person, you cannot put others. Go and check. He put others. In 2019, we did election petition for Timothy Golu and others. Do you know what happened? The court told us you prove your petition, but there's one problem. They said you put and/or. And/or in our grounds. And that was what killed that petition. No? In this one, we are saying that these processes are defective. And in election matters that are so generous like that, once you raise it, it should be taken. But they brush those things aside. What do you expect us to say? Is it that there's double standard? That is why we are crying.
I want you to talk about the implication of this ruling. Now, because we're talking about the people, we're talking about the parties that are actually involved. What are the implications, especially to the people involved?
Because I could remember, I was telling, I say with 2-3 a.m., people will call you and say, what is happening? People will say, what are you people doing? It is our vote. Let me tell you something. Plateau State is one of the most voter-enlightened states in the country. Mind you, when they came for president, you remember, you saw the voting pattern. Labour Party got the bulk of the votes, followed by PDP. APC was coming third, except there is no APC in that past, there's no other party to challenge. That's why you see APC coming second. Now, like in my constituency in Panshak South, literally, we sat down to mobilize, to see how we'll make sure we win our elections. But I can tell you that we were overwhelmed because we had a female candidate. And for the first time, we are having a woman as a candidate. Do you know that these women came out in their numbers, sat down and defended this woman's vote?
Let's speak with this caller. Yes, good evening. Go ahead with your contribution.
Really, I want to appreciate what you people are doing.
Thank you.
Because you are keeping us updated in things that concern Nigeria, concerning politics. So I really appreciate it. That is my point.
Thank you so much. We're really grateful. Thank you.
No, I was concluding when, you remember, I said that political solutions have no basis in law. Like I was giving you an example, I said, they say, oh yeah, come. You know, they said, when we're trying to, before the Congress, when we're trying to settle, they said, issue of what Congress is settled. They won't go for what. Issue of local government is settled. Now, the problem is what? Is state ESCO. Oh yeah, state ESCO. You take this percent, you take this percent. You know, if you go to court and you are explaining that this person were giving this percent to bring, so these people were taking to bring this, you know that the court will be looking at that, what the hell are you saying? You see, that's why I say political solutions have no basis in law. But the thing is that they solve the problem. For example, now, if somebody, you are deciding to tell him that, no, my friend, I will not want you to just tap, or you lost, we'll say, oh yeah, calm down. You know that you were, oh yeah, stay, allow this person go. We are going to give you appointment. We are going to give you this. It is a means of trying to carry the person's interest along. We'll make you campaign DG. No, oh yeah, you are a big man. We cannot allow you to go. When I say, oh yeah, bring 2 people so that they will replace you in so place.
Okay, let's
And why would you leave our vote to count?
Well, I think this caller is from Plateau State.
Plateau. And somebody, like just as you said, you are very enlightened when you come to Plateau. I don't know why the judiciary are on our side. Maybe our vote is no longer empty. So it's unfortunate.
Well, I think she's the citizen of Plateau State calling to actually share her opinion. Thank you for calling.
It will really pain. You see, I know as a politician, why you see this time around, people decided in Hausa they will call you, they give you a manna. They decided to say, look, take our trust, take our mandate. We believe in you, PDP. Do this. And you see, look at the people that are pushing for this thing. They're just power mongers. When we are talking of the youth, they said we shouldn't glorify even him because he should be confined to what he's doing. But he came out to say that we will know who we know. And even the judiciary just folded that. It seems because when you keep quiet in law, they say silence is also an answer. It means they didn't come out to report that, what this young chap is saying is not true. Okay, now the judgment has come out. The judgment does not have a backing of law. It doesn't look like law. Okay, literally, you see, if you notice that they are struggling to tie it, let me make one thing clear. There is nothing like structure in the Nigerian constitution. There is nothing like structure in the Electoral Act. It was a word that was imported. It is clear that Plateau State cannot do the affairs. Plateau State does not conduct the affairs of PDP. We are just an administrative unit. The people who interface with INEC is the PDP at the national. They are the ones that write correspondences. When we write, it doesn't work. Look at the case of Bwacha. When we are calling authority, because these cases were Supreme Court.
You obviously show optimism to the on the Supreme Court based on the grounds at which the appeal court actually ruled. But again, I just want to ask you this question. You're expressing optimism that's at the end of the day because the governor has exercised his right of going to the Supreme Court.
Yes.
Like, do you think that there is a lesson in all of this for the PDP? Because you spoke about interest. And then PDP continues to say this thing is an internal affair. And then some people are saying that, see, if you had settled this issue, then by this time we should be talking about just focusing on governance and not back and forth in the court. Are there lessons for the PDP?
You see, you have already answered the question. It is an internal affair. Who is the person challenging us? Is it Bitrus Kaze? Bitrus Kaze is not the person that is in the Court of Appeal. Is it any of the persons that conducted? Is it any of our opponents? Like, let's say, is it Kefas? That's Kefiano, or is it the people who contested the primaries? Nobody from PDP is challenging PDP. It is APC for crying out loud. And the law says you cannot do that. You see, when the more you explain, you sound a little bit stupid. Because for a common man to say, look at the law, and you are trying to twist the law, it is a straightforward thing. So if a straightforward thing that a common man understands, and you are trying to twist, it doesn't say well. You see, these things are things that we should be very, very, very careful with. Because when people go around, when I say there's a lot of, propaganda, misrepresentation of facts, these things are currencies in politics. But unfortunately, the victims are who? Are the electorate. Whether you like it or not. Plateau is PDP and PDP is Plateau. Plateau has the natural trust of PDP. Because no matter how it's up, look at, we did not have a governor in Plateau State. We didn't have the 17 local government chairmen. We had only, yes, we didn't have 17. We didn't have commissioners.
Our time is actually fast spent. You have to wrap up your
but
thoughts.
We were able to convince people and they gave us their trust. And they defeated the government of the day. Isaac Kwalu's election, Isaac Kwalu won 31 out of 32 wards. Does it make sense? That it was Isaac Kwalu's judgment, they brought that issue of independent candidature. They nullified the remaining. Okay, you started nullifying the remaining. Why didn't you nullify the remaining and say, let's go back to the polls? I
think this conversation will surely continue because our time is actually fast spent. We sincerely appreciate you for your analysis and perspective on National Talk.
Any day, anytime.
Thank you so much. And to our viewers out there, thank you so much for staying with us on this edition of National Talk brought to you by Equa Television International. My name is Joyce Jakada. Do remember that democracy is a theory that the common people know what they want and deserve to get it real good and hard. Until we come your way next time, you have a great night.